Welcome. So we are into season 5, episode 3 already. I hope you've been enjoying the content so far. This series theme is on toxic relationships. So for the whole of this season, we'll be talking all things toxic relationships and the impact that that then has on you. So this time we'll be talking about the impact of toxic relationships, because I think a lot of people don't really realize the impact that toxic relationships has on their life. So it doesn't matter when exactly you were involved in this toxic relationship, it will leave negative stories or reiterate some things that you already believe. So for me, one of the biggest moments in my personal development journey was realizing the impact that the toxic relationship had had on me, and the fact that actually toxic relationships for me didn't start in adulthood. A pathway had been created significantly before then through the relationships, interactions, and experiences that I was having as a child. So, very potted history of me. Initially, I had a very good childhood, very happy childhood. There was just me. I don't remember asking for a brother or sister at any point, but my parents did tell me that I had wanted to have a sibling, but unfortunately my parents were unable. They'd gone through IVF treatment to get me, so I was very much a wanted baby. And then early on in my life, my mum had had significant problems with probably now what would be described as postpartum psychosis as opposed to postnatal depression. And despite everything that was going on, I was still very much loved, still very much wanted. So I felt really cosseted in that relationship. I felt really involved. I was with my parents a lot and their friends. And I don't ever really remember sort of massively being left out of things. I know that there were times that my dad would have a conference and they would go away for a night, and I would be spoiled by my grandparents and stay at theirs and what have you. But we were a close little unit. So when we then moved to Sussex, which was about 120, no, more than that, a good maybe 200 miles away from where I had grown up in Derbyshire. When things started to shift and change, I was about 9 or 10, and suddenly I wasn't involved in those conversations. And the door would be closed if they realised that I was nearby, and they would be talking. There were arguments and rows between them that I didn't really understand what was going on. But unfortunately, because I didn't know what was going on, I created then a story of not being good enough. And it was things like, I must have done something really wrong. My parents aren't talking to me in the same way anymore. I could feel the energy shift even as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. So it was really different to what I'd experienced before. And then, so that was kind of the starting point of thinking, am I not loved in the same way anymore? Have I done something wrong? And you start to compound these stories. So then afterwards, a little while afterwards, I'd started a new school and I was being really badly bullied at school. And initially, my dad particularly was like, oh, just ignore it. And he was generally the one who was around at the end of the school day. So I'd come home really upset and he was like, just ignore them, just ignore them. But it was really bad. And I felt massively threatened by these people, because it wasn't just my peers in primary school, it was their older siblings who were in secondary school and therefore seemed much more grown up and much older. And I wasn't really supported in that at all. I later found out that my parents had gone to speak to the headmistress at the school, but because she wasn't doing anything about it, that was kind of it. That was all that happened. And so that had already started a pattern. So then my dad didn't cope very well with my mum's illness. She had a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis when she was about 36, and that obviously had an impact. So my dad has never been very good at dealing with illness. So he was just pushing it to the side, but not giving my mum support. So my mum then looked to me for support. I was around 11 or 12 at this particular point, couldn't really give that support because I didn't know how, wasn't emotionally mature enough. And mum would be either loving me, looking for my support, wanting my love, wanting my affection, or I would be the emotional punch bag and she would be shouting and screaming and yelling and all of these things. Very confusing when you don't know anything of the story that's going on, and very unpleasant even if I did. So then it wasn't into adulthood that I started toxic relationships. It was from my childhood. It was expecting that chaos. It was expecting that hot and cold. It was expecting those emotional explosions. It was expecting the love bombing at times that would then kind of to and fro. So you have your negative story already created by the time you get to adulthood and start having toxic relationships. So your toxic relationship then reiterates the story that you already believe. I'm not good enough. If my parents couldn't love me properly, then who else is going to? I must keep this boyfriend. In order to be whole and successful, I need to have another half. All of these things. And they're just like, for the most part, I was not aware of them at all, but they just kept compounding. So if you already have a negative story that's been created, you are going to keep reiterating that. Your brain doesn't look for something to prove you wrong. It goes, you think you're not good enough? Okay, here's this piece of evidence. Here's that person who cut you up at the supermarket roundabout. Here is that person who made a funny remark during a presentation you were giving. Here's another piece of evidence from your boss who said something that you have taken as massive rejection and that you're really shit when actually they didn't mean that. Here's another bit where you can't keep a boyfriend. Here's another bit where you went out and you looked really stupid and you didn't. All of these sorts of things, like they're just reiterated. And stupid, particularly, is such a damaging word that actually is banned in our house. We don't use the word stupid. So all of those reiterations of stories of negative things that you already believe, compounding and compounding. And if you imagine, like, if you hear a piece of feedback, so let's say your boss gives you some feedback that is really constructive and fair, you take it as massive rejection, you then put that inside, that goes into your unconscious mind, and your unconscious mind is constantly babbling at you. Remember that time when your boss said this, along with all of the other stuff, and keeps bringing it up, almost like white noise, almost subliminal. You don't even realize it's happening, but it is internally. It then means that your intuition, your higher self, your soul can't get heard. Your soul, in terms of volume, is not as powerful as the inner child who wants to keep reiterating your stories. As ego, he says, well, if you did this and then that will happen, and makes all the scientific rules of your thought processes, which are usually miswired, mismatched, and not helpful at all. So really, what we're looking for through the process of what I teach and guide people through is to turn the dial down on inner child and ego, who are loud and big personalities and very powerful, and turn up your higher self, your soul, the one who wholly supports you, the one who wants you to make change so that you can see what you're worthy of, the one who wants the very best for you, the one that is dying for you to achieve your goals and the dreams and happiness and all of these things. So we start to turn that up, because one of two things happens. One, you then begin to listen into that a little bit more and make better decisions. And two, if a decision doesn't go the way you thought it was going to, or you get more information after you've made that decision, you can then say, but I trusted myself to do that. And it almost makes peace with the fact it didn't go the way you might have thought it was. So there is no losing in that situation. You win both ways. Either it's a better decision and goes well, or if it didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, and I'm not going to say didn't go to plan, because the universe's plan can be very different from our plan, then actually what happens is you end up with a situation where you can make your peace with it. You can be okay with it. You can be okay with the fact that you trusted your intuition and then information came in afterwards that meant maybe next time you would make a different decision. But it's not the same as scattergun approach to decision making based on the voices in your head that then lead you to make poor decisions, make mistakes, etc. Ultimately, the person that you will spend the most time with in your life is yourself. That is pure fact. Unless you are a conjoined twin, is that the right word? Anyway, unless you have got somebody literally attached to you all the time, you are going to spend more time but with yourself than anybody else. And one of the things that we don't learn young enough is the ability to have a great relationship with ourselves, to have a good, strong self-concept. Everything that you do in terms of personal development is about building a stronger self-concept. I want you to have the strongest self-concept that you can have. That means that when life lifes at you, you can get back up again and carry on. You can go, that didn't go to plan. That's a shame. Let's try again. That didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Oh, life has done this thing at me. I'm going to fall down for the moment because I need to, but I'm going to gather myself up and get back up. I'm going to be happier. I'm going to put boundaries in place with people. Your strongest self-concept means that not that you're completely unbreakable or anything like that, but you're significantly more resilient. You're significantly better able to deal with life. And the things that at the moment make you incredibly anxious will just be passing thoughts that you can utilize as data instead of getting caught up like it's a bear that's about to attack you, when actually it was just an email. So your relationship with yourself is so important. So being aware of all of this cackle and babble going on in the background and what it's saying is super important to be able to shift it. And then building a strong self-concept goes into every area of your life. It goes into your sexual relationships. It goes into your friendship relationships. It goes into your work. It goes into your career pathway or your business goals. It goes into the hobbies that you have. It goes into the time that you spend in intending to spend that time on your own. So I'm a massive advocate to going to the cinema on your own. It's Everybody really finds that quite hard, but it's significantly easier than going to a restaurant, for example. And a lot of my clients, when I talk to them about self-dates, they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, taking yourself out for a date, and they might have gone for a coffee and a cake, but it's unlikely that they have done anything with the intention of spending time with themselves. And it's super important, super important. So strong self-concept is the baseline foundation for absolutely everything else in your life. And I don't know why we didn't get taught that. I don't know why that wasn't even in, I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be personal, social, health, and vocational education. There were just so many letters to it, it was insane. Basically, that was a bit of a DOS lesson. What it should have been is teaching us about self-concept, about budgeting and life skills, about so many other things, and actually should have taken precedence over a lot of the other things that we have to learn. Self-concept is everything. When I look back to the previous version of my life, so much so it almost feels like a movie I've watched or a book I've read. And I think I just bent over backwards for everybody. I was such a doormat for everybody. But then intermittently, I'd throw a hissy fit because I was aware that people were walking over me and taking advantage. And also because I thought that if I did anything, it would have to be quite confrontational. And my clients are always really peed off, actually, when it comes to putting boundaries in place that then do not come with any conflict or confrontation. And they're like, why did I not do that sooner? Because it's so frustrating when you start to put these things in place and see that they're not this massive thing that you've built up in your head. It's just this voice in your head going, well, you need everybody to like you, because if everybody doesn't like you, blah, blah, blah. And, I don't like everybody. Why should everybody like me? Some people are just not my person, and that is okay. Some people who are not my person can go really, really far away, and I am all good with that. We don't have to like everybody. Not everybody has to like us. What is brilliant is when you get this smaller, maintainable inner circle of people who have absolutely got your back. We might all be busy, but if one of us phoned another and said, I need you right now, everything would be dropped and we would be right there. That is how it works. And when I look back, I had some really close relationships, but I had a lot of relationships with people which I would have considered to be really good friends who actually didn't have my best interests at heart and weren't helpful and supportive and there for me and boosting me and calling me out on my crap. I do have that now. And it's not about quantity, it is very much about the quality. The quality of the people that you've got in your life who are there. We need a village, right? I think women probably need slightly more people than men do. I think men are better, or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe men have always needed more men, but have had to do the whole, well, I don't need anybody. But people need people. People buy people. Connection is everything, and particularly in the world at the moment, we need the right connections. So if you have any toxic relationships in your past, please at least take the time to explore how that has impacted your self-concept. How strong is your self-concept? Have you come out of that pattern of those relationships and you've now got boundaries? If you have, I celebrate you hugely. And if you haven't, this self-awareness is a gift to you to do something about it. So I hope that you have enjoyed today's. Have a look in the show notes for more information, including how to link in other ways to me. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.